Alright, so welcome back to my channel, you guys. I want to go ahead and test out if primers work on our skin. And I know it sounds a little bit crazy because when it comes to makeup, you always hear to use primer on your skin, but I've heard a lot of makeup artists and people that I know personally, they don't use primers at all, and it always shocks me because like I'm so used to using it all the time. But they do say if you don't use it, it makes your makeup last a little bit longer and it doesn't break down your foundation. And that really intrigued me because throughout the day my foundation kind of breaks down, so I want to see if I just use moisturizer and my makeup lasts a little bit longer. Because these two primers that I have right here, the Farsali Skin Tone Blur Primer, this is $54, and the Kane & Austin is $56, so together it's $110 just on primer alone, which is so crazy because you don't even see it at all. Like, that's so much money. I don't know. So yeah, I do want to test out these claims and see if they actually work because I want to save some money, y'all. Like $110 is a lot of money just on primers alone. So y'all want to go ahead and see what actually happens and go ahead and keep on watching. Alright, so I do have moisturizer on my skin already, and I always go ahead and use my Henriksen. I can never say that correctly, but Henriksen Sheer Transformation Moisturizer. I love this so much because it's not too greasy on the skin, it's not too heavy. It's just a really nice moisturizer for your makeup, and it just makes everything look really, really good. So I think what I'm going to go ahead and do is apply primer on this side, which is my right side, but y'all's left, and then on this side I'm just going to leave the moisturizer on, and we'll go from there and see what happens. Now for primer, I'm using two primers actually, and I know it sounds a little bit crazy, but that's what I always do in my makeup routine. And my T-zone, I use my Kane & Austin Prime and Protect Mattifying Primer, and then all over my skin I use my Farsali Skin Tone Blur Primer. So let me go ahead and apply it on this side of my face. I usually just put a couple drops onto my face. You really don't need too much with this because a little bit does go a long way. I'm gonna blend that in really quickly. Now this primer doesn't claim to make you matte or anything like that, but it does give you like a skin tone blur appearance on your skin, and I actually do like it. Now for my T-zone, I'm using my Kane & Austin Prime and Protect Mattifying Primer. Just putting that right here, a little bit on my forehead. So it's pressed into my skin and ready to go. And comparing the two sides, obviously this side looks a little bit more matte, where this side looks a little bit more like skin-like, a little bit more moisturized and whatnot. So that is the first thing I do notice. Alright, so moving on to the front part, I'm going to go ahead and apply some foundation. And I'm using my Maybelline Superstay foundation in the shade Coconut. This foundation is so good when it comes to drugstore. And I used to use Warm Coconut, but that was a little bit too orange on my skin. So I feel like this is a little bit better when it comes to my skin tone. Now I'm just applying a pump to the back of my hand. And I'm going to start off with the primer side and apply it on there because I do know how this side will act. So I'm just going to dot some all over. And also I forgot to mention, with this foundation, a little bit goes a long way. So don't use as much as I did because I did use a little bit too much. But you don't need much with this foundation. Now moving on to the other side, I'm going to go ahead and add another pump onto the back of my hand and then dot it all over my face. But this side blended out really well, of course. With primer, everything looks really, really good. But with just moisturizer, like, I'm not sure the outcome of this. And if I'm honest with you guys, probably once or twice in my life I forgot to put primer on my face, and even with that, at the end of the day my makeup still looked pretty good from what I remember. It didn't look bad at all, so I do have high hopes for this side, and hopefully it doesn't play me. Alright, so both sides are completed and they look really, really good so far. And looking at the viewfinder, it also looks really good. But let me grab a mirror and look up close to see if I see like any difference on my face. And my pores are still big on both sides of my cheeks. Like, there's no difference right there. But besides that, everything looks really, really good. They all look the same. Honestly, both sides look very similar. So far, no difference. But really quickly, I'm going to contour my face and add a little bit more color back to it. Taking the Makeup Revolution contour stick in the shade F16. I'm just going to contour my cheeks and my forehead. And And to highlight, I'm using my Fenty Beauty Concealer in the shade 410. I've been loving this stuff, y'all, because it's so creamy and it blends out so well. I do know some people have like issues with the powder and whatnot, but for me, I'm really oily, so it works for my skin. But if you are dry, the powder is probably not a good idea, but the concealer, y'all, like, this is bomb. And as I blend it into my skin, y'all can tell it is very, very creamy and it just blends right in. And I may go ahead and get a darker shade to contour with because it doesn't set too fast. Like, it's not a very matte concealer, very creamy and hydrated, and gives me time to blend it out. So may go ahead and get a darker one. And to set my concealer, I'm taking my Fenty Beauty setting powder in the shade Honey. And this shade is perfect for my skin tone because it's not too light at all. It's a very nice powder and adds a little bit of brightness underneath my eyes. And if you are oily, I do recommend this. But if you do have dry skin, it may be a little bit too dry for you. So while my face is baking and cooking and whatnot, I'm going to go ahead and finish up the rest of my face, and I'll be back to do the wear test for you guys. And so far, everything looks really good. Like, I can't tell a difference between the two sides, so far so good. So it's currently 2:48 right now, and this is what my face looks like. I honestly cannot tell a difference. Let me know if y'all can tell a difference between the two sides, but to me they look the same. So far so good. It's currently 2:48, so I'll be back in probably 4 hours or 6 hours, let you guys know how my face is doing without the primer. But at this point, I feel like you don't need primer, but we'll see. So it's almost 8 o'clock, and I wanted to go ahead and do the check-in because I can just tell how my face is going to act already. Like, y'all can tell on both sides. On both sides, I am very, very greasy. And it's kind of funny because I buy the Kane & Austin primer to control my oil, but still on this side, I'm actually a little bit more oily than the side that doesn't have the primer, which is crazy because this is $56. Like, I don't understand. Now, it doesn't mean that it doesn't do its job. It definitely does that, but having a side-by-side comparison, I noticed that I'm very oily on either side, so it's not really doing anything like I thought it was in my head. In my head, I don't know, I was just thinking that it was controlling my oils, but clearly it's not doing that. But grabbing a mirror, I do want to look a little bit closer to see what my face looks like. And on both sides, I'm very oily, of course, like I said before. But one thing I do want to mention, on the side that doesn't have primer, wherever I have like a crease or anything like that, the foundation is like rubbing off already on those areas. But it's not a major difference compared to this side because honestly, they both look the same to me, which is insane because when it comes to primers, I always live by my primers, and just to know that I'm spending so much money on them, they're not really doing that much of a difference. Now, with that being said, will I get rid of my primers? I'm not sure if I'll get rid of them because, I mean, I'm so used to putting on primer before foundation, but I mean, I don't always need it like I thought I did. But let me know down below what side looks better to you guys, because in person, I feel like this side looks a little bit better, the no primer side, than this side, because this side just looks like a hot mess. Okay, I don't know. But I do hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe on your way out. I love you guys so much, and I'll see you guys in my next one.